What's up, y'all? What's good? Welcome to the What Up Though Show. It's your boy, Dame D, and I am back with another one. What's up, y'all? What's good? I'm just checking in and chiming in. It's Monday. It's Tuesday morning, I should say. Yep. So I'm gonna this is gonna be a follow-up from the show that we did on Freestyle Friday. You know, it's another black man was found hanging in a tree in Marietta, Georgia, and we talked about this this past Friday. You know, and it was not talked about a lot on the mainstream media. You know, now it's starting to hit the mainstream media, and I have video and audio of you know, that I'm going to play of the situation that I talked about Friday. So, and I'll do commentary off the video. So, but yeah, man, you know, it's been an ongoing situation with black men being found hanging from trees, and you know, and it's been going. I'm not going to say unnoticed, but it's not been talked about enough in the mainstream media. You know, this was a 21-year-old college man, you know, that was found hung. You know, you don't find too many black men, you know, trying to hang themselves from trees, you know. So I'm going to play the video, have everything queued up, you know, and then we'll do commentary as the video go. But, you know, this video that I'm getting ready to play, I'm going to use this for, you know, fair use. This is going to be used for educational and commentary purposes only. You know, but yeah, you know, we have to get ahead of this situation. It's been, you know, I've done multiple stories last year, you know, and a few stories this year on, you know, black men that's been found hanging. You know, we had a few truck drivers last year, you know, out of North Carolina that was found hung, you know. So it's just been a situation that, you know, the mainstream media has not been really putting out there. You know, it's been you know, people like Dr. Richie, which I'm getting ready to show. So give me a second. I have the video queued up, and here we go. So, all right, so here we go. Give me your opinion on this.
Been found hanging from a tree. This was last week, this time in Marietta, Georgia. There you see the young man's picture. Police have swiftly ruled it as a suicide. I know what you're thinking. I'll give you as much as we have on this one. 21-year-old Kyle BASSIGA found hanging in Fair Oaks Park, Atlanta. Now, here's what Cobb County police are saying. Officers were called to Fair Oaks Park, 1465 West Booth Road, around 9:46 a.m. after receiving a 911 call about a dead person in the wooded area of the park, February 18th. Police said witnesses reported seeing him enter the wooded area alone on Valentine's Day, about 4:28 p.m. Detectives found no evidence indicating that anyone else was involved, no signs of foul play, according to police. 11 Alive, the local news outlet, with the detail.
You know, and let me pause it right here. That's one main concerning thing. And you have a lot of people, not just me, you know, are saying that the authorities have to have, you know, allegedly, you know, in a hand in all these, you know, because there's never no foul play. There's never no evidence of these young men hanging themselves, you know, and like I was saying earlier, you know, it's, you know, you don't find too many black people hanging themselves, you know, especially, you know, from what went on, you know, with our ancestors. So that'll be the last thing that, you know, you'll find black men doing. And it's mighty suspicious, you know, and like I said, man, the same play has been ran time and time again, you know, so I'll go ahead and finish hitting play on this.
In the reporting. Now, we do want to make this note. The park, it's about 30 miles away from his school, Georgia State University. Cobb County authorities say they're continuing to investigate the case, and they're awaiting the medical examiner's final autopsy. Now, Kyle had reportedly been missing since Valentine's Day. His body was found February 18th. Missing persons posters up. A few months ago, BASSIGA posted, though, an encounter with a police officer who illegally checked his ID without stating a legitimate reason. We do want you to watch this.
What if everything you think you know about chronic back pain and sciatica is wrong? Right? What if all the core stability...
Treat me like I'm some crazy ass, bro. A random car drives behind me close like that.
What?
Bro, look where you are. I was on the sidewalk right here. You was driving close to me, bro. Come on, bro.
I'm just gonna tell you again to chill out, stop screaming, and don't get in my face, okay? That's the last time you're gonna get in my face.
I'm not even close to you right now, gang.
Okay.
Just give me my. I can go about my business. Cause this is low key illegal what you just did. You just checked me for no reason. What was your reason?
And I believe this was a video that was that he had took days before he ended up missing.
For getting my ID.
You said you were a student, so I asked your parents.
No. What was your
what
was your initial reason?
Policy?
Because you see my hoodie. I have a Georgia State hoodie on, bro.
Right.
What was your reasoning? Did I commit a crime? That's what I'm saying. Thank you. You seen that? Thank you.
It's okay, man, because we got cameras all around here. So you
I
can
don't
see.
know what he done. I just saw you look like you were
Driving close.
do anything.
I didn't do anything.
Right.
So hold on. You don't have no reason to get my ID, right? I'm not doing anything.
Actually, you are a student here, which is what I asked.
With a Georgia State hoodie on?
Right.
So you just go around asking random kids, are you a Georgia State student? Even the kid with a Georgia State hoodie on?
So my heart's already broken because he's gone. And now it's broken because we lost a future leader. Everything he said in that footage right there, to me, a layperson, not a lawyer, made sense. Is it related? No, we're not saying that. I don't know. But we wanted you to see more. He felt enough to post it, so we showed it to you. How about the family? They've spoken out. According to 11 Alive reporter Chase Hull, who spoke to BASSIGA's family, they're not focusing on speculation that his death may have been foul play. The quote, right now, online speculation is the least of our worries. We're focused on burying our son, and I'm happy to have found him, the family said. The Griot helping out with the reporting. Community members, they're skeptical, though, that this is being investigated as a suicide so quickly. Why not take a beat and let's see where the evidence takes us? That's what...
And that's my thing. I'm gonna pause this for a second. That's my thing. All these young men that's been found hanging this year and then last year. I did multiple stories on young men, that was hanging in the southern area, especially truck drivers. I did like at least 3 stories on truck drivers that was found hanging. But the whole thing is, there's never no evidence of no foul play. It always comes back that these men and young men has committed suicide. You know what I mean? And most of these men had just started their careers, like far as with the truck drivers. A lot of them were new truck drivers just starting their career, and a lot of them are young men. And then we have stories that I've done, where you had some of the older truck drivers that, was actually pulled over and stopped by the police. And they were just kind of suspicious of some of the things that were going on. So, that's why a lot of people say that, allegedly, the police may have a lot, a lot of a big hand in these, in these cases where no evidence is found, because you got to ask yourself, who's going to stop? Only person that probably would, have authority to stop, or pull somebody over is the police. You know what I mean? So, and they have authority to, be able to pull you out, lock you up, put you in handcuffs. Therefore, there won't be no struggle, no evidence, or anything like that. So there needs to be more investigation on all of these cases going forward.
Some are saying 4 days after BASSIGA was found in the park, people visiting that have been there before said they're still searching for answers. They need to know more. One resident told 11 Alive's Safenik Pinnock, somebody had to see something, somebody had to hear something, and everything and everybody is just quiet about it. Adding that while anything is possible, do I believe throughout the history of this country that young Black man did that to himself? I'm going to say no. Harold Rhodes with the New Order National Human Rights Organization said the case felt personal to him. I have to say something because this is my backyard, he said. I can't be an activist and something just took place in my own backyard and not say nothing. We all do understand that we don't know what happened, Rose said. It's just the fact that something did happen. The young man lost his life. And we just want to make sure we get to the bottom of this. There's that. Now, the death of Kyle BASSIGA comes in the midst of 2 lynchings within the last few months. I'm just checking the calendar. It's 2026, and we've now said 2 lynchings in recent months. Last week, Dr. Ritchie reported on 39-year-old Tony Medley found hanging at a golf course in Wisconsin. There's also DeMar Travion Trey Reed, also found hanging from a tree at Delta State University in Cleveland, Mississippi.
Which I did a story on. Let me pause this. Which I did a story on that young man, but I did not do the story on the young man that was found in the golf area hanging. You know, so a lot of these situations, you know, you got to ask yourself. It's very suspicious. You know, no evidence of foul play. You know, on every single case, you know, so you have to ask yourself, you know, why are we not finding, you know, white men hanging from trees, you know, in areas like this, you know, or some in just areas hanging, you know what I mean? So you got to ask yourself this question, you know, it has to be, you know, these young men and these men has to be sought out, you know, found out, and being hung, you know, because like everyone is saying, you know, it's definitely signs of foul play, you know, but there's no foul play. You know, what young man is going to go and hang himself, you know, from a tree, you know, and most young men do not know how to tie a noose anyway, you know, are not pretty much not capable of tying a noose that's capable of hanging yourself from a tree, you know. So I'm going ahead and play the video. It just amazes me, you know, that the same play has been run over and over and over again, and you know, there's no questions that's being asked or raised, you know, but these young men go on to, you know, be hung, and then there's no, you know, there's no one held responsible for this, you know, when we know that these cases are, you know,
both police departments ruled these deaths
bullshit.
Suicide. Seems like a terrible way to go. And I know that people do take their own lives. Some by hanging.
You know, and let me pause this. You know, and like she said, we know that people do take their own lives, but you know, let's just be honest. How many black men can you name in your family, you know, or that you know that have committed suicide by hanging themselves? You know, let's just be honest. Now, you may hear stories like that in jail or situations like that, but you know, it's rare that you're going to find a black man, especially a young black man, that's willing to hang himself, you know, from a tree.
But these seem to be mysteries. I've not heard about underlying mental stress. I've not heard that. It could be there. I'm just telling you, that's not front and center. The police haven't, as they ruled this latest suicide, said anything about that I know of. Senator, it's personal to all of us, especially of a certain hue, when we have these things come to light.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and pause this and come out. I just wanted to, you know, just share a little bit of this information because, like I said, I talked about this story, you know, Friday, and the mainstream media was not, you know, talking about this at all, you know. And like I said, we've done multiple stories on young men, you know, and older truck drivers being found, you know, hung from trees, you know, and this needs to be talked about, you know, a lot, you know, because we're not hearing stories in the mainstream media, you know. So, you know, I'm just doing my due diligence on this story and just trying to, you know, put this out, you know, because I couldn't imagine, you know, if this was my son or, or one of my family members that was found hanging from a tree, you know. So the comment section is open. I definitely need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Give me your thoughts on this situation. You know, another black man is found hanging from a tree. You know, the mainstream media is really not talking about it. You know, his family wants answers. You know, they don't believe that, you know, this young man, and he was in college, you know, had a lot to live for. So why would he hang himself from a tree? You know, had no prior stories of, you know, trying to commit suicide or was, what's the word that I'm looking for, was, you know, or in stress or anything like that, or depressed, I should say. So yeah, I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. The comment section is definitely open. You know, this is a tragedy, tragedy, I should say. You know, excuse me, getting my words twisted. But yeah, man, you know, we've done multiple stories. Every story that I've talked about, you know, about this situation is always come back foul play, and that has to be alarming to, to the people that's watching this. What black man did, like I said, that's going to hang himself? Most likely he's not. So, and again, this stuff would be a lot more investigated or talked about if you found white men, hanging from trees in in urban areas. Why are you not finding white men hanging from trees? You know what I mean? So you gotta use your logic when you're looking at situations like that. When you just keep continuing finding black men hanging from trees, and especially when this was, something that was always going on, 30, 40 years ago, when you had white men that were out there lynching, when it was legal, I'm not going to say legal, but yeah, when it was almost legal for white men to be out there lynching black men. So you gotta ask yourself, are we going back to this time where they're, committing these type of crimes, and I'm going to say, in my opinion, yes, because like I said, there's no foul play, there's no evidence, and it's like, you got to ask yourself, like, how is there no evidence? How is this young man getting himself up in this tree? And like I said, most young men do not know how to tie a noose that's able to hold yourself in a tree. You know what I mean? Most motherfuckers would tie or try to tie a noose and get up in a tree and basically fall out of the tree because they don't even know how to tie a noose, unless you were a Boy Scout. You know what I mean? So you just got to look at certain situations like that. And then you just got to ask yourself, why aren't you seeing white folks, being hung from trees? This is, you have to use your logic in situations like that. So I just want to talk about this story. I just want to hear you guys' opinion. I've done like multiple stories last year on that. I can name at least 5 stories where we talked about the same situation, and it's still going on. It's like they're running the same play, and we're just sitting back, allowing this to happen. This could be your loved one. This could be you. So again, you young men and women, because we have a lot of women truck drivers out here too now. You just have to be aware of your surroundings. You definitely have to carry that strap, and then this is what a lot of people are talking about. Why they say the police may have some involvement, because nowadays, most of these truck drivers are probably, carrying around, CCW'd up, so they do have their firearms. So, in order for someone to be able to pull you up out of your car and to be able to hang you, that you have to be, 9 times out of 10 handcuffed, or, law enforcement had to be able to pull you over, and get you out of the car without a fight. That's why no evidence is being found, in my opinion. So when you do your when you use your logic and do your you use your common sense, that's why it's always coming back with no evidence, and it's always coming back with foul play. So like I said, the comment section is open. I would love to hear you guys' opinion on that. I just wanted to come back and do and just talk about that, because like I said, when we talked about this Friday, there was not really any talk about this young man hanging himself. The mainstream media was not talking about it. You just had a few people that was talking about it. So once I saw that this morning that they're talking about it, so I'm like, I just wanted to bring it back to you guys' attention. But yeah, I would definitely love to hear you guys' opinion. The comment section is open. If you want to come in and talk about it, you guys are more than welcome to come on in. I just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention. It's an epidemic. And it needs to be. Something that needs to be done about this. It's just been too many young men that's been found hanging from trees. You know what I mean? And it's just not right. So I'm not gonna hold you guys up long. I just wanted to show that, and we need to, be aware of situations like this, because we have young men, young women, that's coming up, and that's driving trucks. And not just only that, you have men and women that's traveling through these states where situations like this are happening. So you have to be aware. That's why I'm doing my due diligence on trying to put this information out there. Therefore, people know, what's going on. Do not find yourself in certain situations, where this may happen. If you're able to, have your strap on you legally, make sure that you carry your strap, because, in most of these situations, I guarantee you, a lot of these, truck drivers probably have their CCW, so it has to be a lot more questions to these hangings. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to hold you guys up any longer. Like I said, I just wanted to talk about this for a little bit. Once I had saw the Young Turks talking about it, I just wanted to, show this video and put this out there, because when we talked about it Friday, we were having a little technical difficulty showing the video, but hopefully this video came out clear. You guys were able to hear everything good. And like I said, I definitely need for you guys to share this. This needs to be put out there. The family needs to have answers. They need to have closure, because at the end of the day, the family talked about this. This young man had his whole life ahead of him. He had no reason to want to commit suicide or even hang himself. And you just, like I said, you have to use your logic. How many black men do you know that have committed suicide by hanging themselves? And then you have to ask yourself a question too. A lot of these guys probably were armed, had their CCWs, had their firearms on them, and were and it's just a lot of, just strange unanswered things that was going on, like no evidence at all on every single last case that you guys found the black man hanging from a tree. So I don't have anything else to add. I just wanted to bring this up and do my part on, and informing everyone on what's going on in these states and these areas. So you got to be careful, man. This is going on. You would have thought we were back in the 50s and in the 60s by, this alarming rate that we're seeing all these lynchings and hangings, I should say. So it's another one. It's your boy Dame D, and I am out. Peace.